everyone, this is Arnoud, Whizbiz.com, and join me in this video on my search for the solutions of a very special 3D project. I was asked to create personalized versions of the traditional Fischertechnik figure in a scale of 1 to 10. This project eventually led me to the Bundesgartenschau, the Buga 23 in Mannheim in Germany, for the handout of these unique personalized figures. And it even led to an interview with Thilo Rust, the project leader of a large Fischertechnik cable car model at this National Garden Show. So, stay tuned for a behind-the-scenes look at designing, printing and decorating your own personalized action figures. But first, let's turn back the clock to the autumn of 2022, when a lively discussion arose on the Fischertechnik forum about the diversity of the traditional Fischertechnik toy figure. This forum discussion eventually led to a lot of creativity and various additional figures, ladies and girls, people with various skin colors, and so on. Coincidentally, before the discussion about the lack of the female figure arose in this forum, I happen to have already done some useful 3D preliminary work. Because some time ago I wanted to feature the Fischertechnik figure in a 3D animation. And for that end I already modeled all the separate parts of the existing figure myself, in Blender at the time. For those who want to see the final video, I will include a link in the description of this video. Then you can see for yourself whether or not I succeeded in my intentions. But before I could let the 3D printer roll, the 3D model used for the animation had to be modified and refined before the limbs could be printed in a way to make them easy enough to assemble and give enough strength to pose the final printed figure. If all dimensions of the original Fischertechnik figure are doubled, we'll get a 3D printable figure with a height of 17 centimeters. That takes my printer more than 10 hours to print without the manual post-processing. The more brittle Patch G proved to be a better printing material than PLA for this. To prevent the figure from collapsing under his own weight like a rag doll when posing, I had to experiment with the diameters and the shape of the pivot points. This was particularly important with the so-called printing in place of the lower and the upper limbs of the arms and legs. I initially only planned one 3D model for all the heads, which could be printed from skin-colored filament. I thought that the different hairstyles could be made afterwards in the decorative phase with acrylic paint. However, it soon became apparent that there were several people in the team with very typical and voluminous hairstyles. So I found myself designing multiple different heads with integrated hairstyles, and I used Blender's sculpt mode for this, as you can see. The round head, the basic head, could of course be used for the bald heads, but I also made some modified variations to cover more eccentric hairstyles. Of course, strands of hair can also be printed straight and then modeled afterwards by heating and bending them, but it worked best for me to print the delicate protrusions with support material on the 3D printer. But before these heads could be painted, the support material of course must be removed, and after cleaning up and finishing the head, it's finally ready for decoration. Okay, so far for the hair, but now we are faced, no pun intended, with the challenge of applying recognizable faces to these heads. In each stylist face I try to incorporate as many specific characteristics of the team member, of course, and I brought all these faces together on one A4 overhead sheet and I laser printed them, cut them out and tried to transfer these faces to the 3D printed heads with a gel medium that hopefully could be used as a transfer gel in some way. I came across some movies about this procedure on YouTube, but unfortunately those people had most definitely much more success with this than me. I even constructed a special clamp to clamp the head while drying, but drying took an awful long time because of the overhead sheets, the plastic overhead sheets. Let's clamp it a little bit more on the other side. So I really did my best to make this a great success, but afterwards, as you can see, the results are very disappointing. There is Some transfer of toner from the transfer sheet to the head, but almost none. So my next move was to print these faces on a so-called water slide decal sheet, which I didn't know existed, but these are special sheets for model builders who want to make their own water slide decals. I didn't test the ones especially for the inkjet printer, but I used my laser printer to print the faces. With these special sheets you're able to make the kind of transfers that resemble those included with the plastic airplane model kits that you might remember. After you have cut them out, you briefly soak them in some water, and after some time you're able to carefully slide the transfer from the paper onto the model. In my case, the small heads. Due to the watery gel-like layer, the image will be fairly easy to reposition for a short time. These specially prepared sheets of paper consist of a water-permeable paper carrier layer on which a water-soluble glue and gelatinous top layer have been applied. You can print directly on this top layer with a normal laser printer. After a transfer has been cut out as close as possible to the edges of the image, it can be slid onto the head after a short soak in the water. Due to the slight curves of the head, however, small wrinkles may appear in the transfer sometimes. This can be fixed by making the transfer more flexible, and for this purpose a special softener is for sale. But through a modeling forum I found out that with simple clear cleaning vinegar exactly the same can be achieved. You could check out the project page on my website for more detailed information and tips on my experiments with these decals. The link is in the description of the video. And if you find this video educational or just fun, don't forget to subscribe or press the thumbs up. And of course, please leave a comment over here if you have any tips of your own. In the end, I managed to get all the faces on there, so the final step is to paint the hair and the beards and so on. You might still see the edges of the decal shine a little bit on them now, but this will probably be fine when the puppets are finally sprayed with a matte transparent varnish. This layer of lacquer fixes the face decal and the hand-painted hairstyles, but also ultimately proves a neat, unambitious surface finish to the various colored 3D filaments that were used. After all, some colors and materials have a more shiny surface than others, and a matte finish straightens that out nicely. The whole figure will then have an even matte look. So, there they are, the whole family of nearly 20 Fischer Technique XL figures. At this point, I can imagine that you might wonder who these people are that are represented here with these little figures. Well, they happen to be the team of Fischer Technique constructors that have built a scale 1 to 10 model of the cable car that's currently at the Bundesgartenschau in Mannheim, Germany. The project leader of this great project, Mr. Thilo Rust, asked me to secretly make these figures as a surprise for his team. It took some time, but as you can see, I managed to pack all the figures neatly for the big day, the Gondel Gala. So, what can I say? It was of course a great honor to surprise the team with the handmade XL figures during this event. So, Thilo, many thanks for your hospitality in asking me for this very special assignment. It was difficult to keep the secret to the end, but we succeeded, and the team members were quite overwhelmed by the surprise. What a hot project! Thilo also took the time to let me talk about the making of these figures in one of his great project videos. Follow the link in the description of this video to find that video channel and watch the videos of the Zeilbahn construction team. Give that channel a big thumbs up as well.
Hey, I would rather be scale 1 to 10 as well.
Well, here you go.
Okay,
folks, that's about it for this time. Hope you liked it, and I'll conclude with a well-meant happy hacking!